Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World, the YouTube channel all about blockchain games. I'm Jon Jordan, and in this video I am continuing to fall down my current rabbit hole, which is the pricing of Axie Infinity NFTs. So Axie Infinity, one of the key blockchain games, had a very successful 2020, and one of the elements is it has these Axie NFTs, which are the game characters that you use in the game. And because obviously people are buying and selling these NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain, we have a lot of pricing data around these, and I've started to get quite interested in that. So obviously no investment advice. I do own some of these, so that's kind of part of my interest. But what I was thinking about recently was it's interesting that when it comes to tokens, we kind of have on centralized exchanges, at least, we can look at kind of the buy and sell orders, and we can kind of see what's going on there. And often people say something like, "Oh, there's a lot of resistance for Bitcoin at I don't know, $19,000," or that's what they used to say until it went up to $30,000. But in these kind of centralized exchanges, we can look to see at least what some of the bets people have made on whether or on what price they're prepared to buy and sell tokens at, because they set these systems up already. With NFTs, we do have this in the sense that we can look at marketplaces and we can look at the sell side. So we can see the price at which people are prepared to sell. We can't see the price at which people are prepared to buy. No one's done that yet. So that's that's something for the future. But I did start looking at the kind of the variation of these kind of sell prices. So obviously we can look at, in this case, we can look at the AXIE Infinity Marketplace, and we can look to see for each type of Axie what price people are prepared to sell their Axies at. So generally, in most of these cases, people will kind of go for the cheapest one. In Axie Infinity, there may be, particularly at the low levels, you may want to buy a particular Axie because it's got some sort of kind of body part or some sort of attribute or some sort of thing, because you're building teams out, so you need 3 Axies to make a team. So you want a specific sort of Axie. You want a tank Axie to take a lot of damage. You want attack Axies. You want support Axies, all that sort of stuff. But this is very brief kind of overview. Not even, no, it's not. I was going to say it's not even an overview really. This is a very brief kind of a first pass really of the data. So I've just gone to the Axie Infinity Marketplace and I've taken like the top 20 sale prices, or prices that people are prepared to sell at. So these are Axies you could just go on the website and buy right now if you wanted to. And there's lots of different type of Axies. I'm not going to go into all the kind of detail. In fact, I'm going to one class I'm going to ignore totally at the moment. But what we can see here is I've kind of broken down. This is the top 20 prices for the cheapest Axies. So these are the cheapest sort of Axies you can buy. If you want to buy an Axie, these are the cheapest ones, and this is the 20 cheapest Axies. That kind of makes sense. And what we can see here, price here is in ETH. So the cheapest one is at the time I did this was 0.0315. Then there was one 0.356, and then one at 0.357. So 3 price very similar, and then suddenly it went up to 0.0398, and then it went up to 0.0422, and then it pretty much got stuck at 0.045. So the first 3, if we generally assume people just want to buy them to get into Axie, we don't care too much about body parts, we can see there's actually quite a big jump here, and then it kind of the pricing for the next this is the top 20, the cheapest 20, as I say. So the pricing, basically, we can see in this context the pricing is basically 0.045. That's basically what the cheapest Axies are priced at, unless you want to go for the 3 cheapest ones. That's basically where you end up. So that gives us some idea of variation. And what was interesting was I then did a similar thing for the more expensive ones. So the most expensive type class of Axies are called Origin Axies. There's only ever going to be 4,088 of those. It'll actually be slightly less, but that's the kind of the maximum supply that can be. And we can see here again, this is the price in ETH. So these are much more expensive. The cheapest one is 1.1 ETH. It's a bit different here in the sense that the pricing kind of goes up fairly steadily. So it's not like the cheapest ones. We had three that were about the same, and then 3 that kind of steadily went up, and then all the rest were the same. In this case, we've actually got a lot more kind of gradual pricing increase. But then we get stuck at about 1.5. So you can kind of immediately see all these numbers are kind of psychological numbers. They're kind of point, you know, 0.4, you know, got a 5 at the end, basically. So it's kind of interesting that we can kind of see here what. So while you can buy an Origin Axis, the cheapest one is 1.1. We can kind of see my kind of assumption would be the market kind of thinks in the long term the price is going to be 1.5. That's kind of what they see it as, although it's going to take you know, you're going to have to sell 15 Axes to get to that point. But even these ones are kind of being priced as a discount to the fact that most people think the price of an Origin Axis at the moment is 1.5. So these ones are being priced cheaper to sell them off the back of that. And all the way down, actually, you kind of say all the way down, people are dropping the price a little bit to become the cheapest one, because that's what people are going to buy. But this is what's setting the price up there. And I would say a similar thing for the cheapest one, although it's potentially a little bit different because it's so cheap. And then the most expensive ones are called Mystic Axes. This is a one Mystic body part. You can have multiple Mystic body parts, but these ones we can see again a lot more expensive. This is 6 ETH, so the cheapest Mystic you can get at the moment is 6.288, and then there's one at 6.5392. But then a bit like the cheapest ones we saw, there were a few cheap ones, and then kind of the price very quickly goes up and actually gets. We can see the price here of Mystic one. Axes is kind of 8 ETH seems to be where the pricing is. So some of these are priced like a little bit cheaper, but that's kind of where we are, ignoring these two, which are actually priced quite cheap. But then there's only a certain amount at 8, and then there's also some other people who go for 9. So again, psychological numbers here, 8, 9 are the main kind of anchor prices we can think about here, and then people are pricing in between those. So that was kind of interesting. And I guess. You know, this data, as ever, is you know, I'm looking at this for one day, and so who knows quite how significant this is. But if you look at for this top 20, if you look at the price difference between the cheapest one and the 20th cheapest one, for the cheapest Axis, it was the difference is this one is 143% higher. For the Origin ones, it's 136% higher, and for the Mystic ones, it's again 143% higher. So what's actually interesting in my context is for these very different priced Axes, the kind of price variation from the cheapest one to the 20th cheapest one was pretty much the same. It was about 140. So the price differential was about 40% up here. That was kind of interesting because I would have thought potentially there's very different dynamics going on here in how people are setting up to sell these. Because the cheapest ones, obviously, you just want to get rid of them, really. And the Origin and Mystic ones, you're probably thinking a bit more in the long term. But actually, that doesn't seem to be the case, although there is this different kind of dynamic in terms of where you hit these kind of psychological anchor prices. So I thought that was interesting. That all at the moment, at least, all these Axes are kind of priced in the same way, at least in terms of the cheapest 20. We can also look at. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but I then did a graph of how this percentage changed for each cheapest Axie. So you can see here we start off with the Mystics and the cheapest Axes and the Origin Axes. So these are all these ones down here, and we can see as I say, they obviously starts off at 100 because everything's that's the cheapest one for each class, and then we end up here in the cheapest 20th, and they're all about 140% for these three classes. What you notice is these are the MEO class, MEO1 and MEO2. And you can just see here the price dynamic is very, very different. I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's a lot. It's a lot different. These are very different classes of Axes. So these are not bred. You don't breed these. These are created by the developer, and they're a very special sort of class. And there's not so many of them. So I guess there's less market forces going on here. And this is kind of the conclusion I would take from this is very much driven by market forces. People are breeding these and then are working out kind of how they're going to sell them, and they're thinking about pricing, and they're thinking about anchor prices, and they're kind of thinking about, do I want to sell it quickly, so I sell it a bit cheaper, or do I see some sort of anchor price here, you know, and I well, basically at some point we're going to get to 1.5, so I'll go to 1.5 sort of thing. These MEO class is just very different. We can see here the pricing is just, actually what's interesting is for the cheapest 20, it actually ends up at the same point again. So we end up with basically 470%. But for me, this suggests that because there's a less efficient market here, no one knows how to price these things. Again, we can kind of see there are some anchor points. So there are some points at which lots of these type of actives are priced at the same. But it's not anything like as clear, partly because there's fewer buyers and sellers. People don't really understand this class. I don't really understand the pricing of this class. So we can kind of see this is like a shotgun effect. People are just pricing them at like whatever because no one knows what on earth's going on. So that was kind of an interesting conclusion that I drew from this. Anyway, that was all I was going to do in this video. As I say, I do find Axies very interesting at the moment, and I do think the pricing of NFTs is a thing worth thinking about and worth trying to make some conclusions into and draw some conclusions about. Quite what my conclusions are in the deepest sense of NFT valuations, I'll wait and see. But I am using this, I guess personally, in terms of thinking, are these things kind of good price? Are these Axies being sold at a good price? And what is a good price to buy these things? And what's a good price to sell these things? And obviously, looking at what other people think gives you a broader idea of the market, wisdom of crowds, and all that stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. This is Blockchain Gaming World. If you're interested in this stuff and you find it useful, please do subscribe. But thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.